to my channel. My name is Lahna. If this is your first time watching a video, I first want to thank you all for taking the time in watching my first video. It was really hectic to get through, but it just had to be done, and here we are on the second video. So thank you for that time. I also want to thank you. Some of you had reached out to me to share your story and to share a little bit about you and your life, and I'm honored by that. Thank you for trusting me, and thank you for sharing. Sharing our stories is really important. When we share our stories with other people, it sort of expands everyone to learn about compassion, about empathy, about kindness, about love and understanding. And through sharing our stories and connection, that is how we all learn together. And that is also part of the collective consciousness. So if we want to create a better world for all of us to live in, we must connect, we must share our story. So I hope you find inspiration to share your story with other people. When I hear about people's life stories, I have so much compassion for them. I mean, my heart just sinks. Not out of sadness or anything, just because whatever it is that you're going through, I understand, I feel you, I just want to hug you, and I just want to, I don't know, just fill you up with love. So thank you for that, and keep sharing. Today's video is about abundance and wealth, and this is something that I had personally experienced this year. And it started happening back in January. I'll talk a little bit about my life and how I related to that, and it's through story, my story, that initiates these lessons or life's little nuggets, golden nuggets of information, because knowledge truly is power, and knowledge will help you with abundance and also wealth. So let's talk about abundance. I didn't really have that much experience focusing on abundance because of my childhood and the traumas. I was just very busy trying to fix myself from the inside. So abundance wasn't anything that I ever had focused on. But through my life, I had touched upon it intuitively. My higher self, my higher being, and also God has guided me through my journey of learning. So those moments I will talk about because it had to do with abundance. I didn't even know it was part of abundance until later on. I didn't even really learn about abundance until maybe in my 30s, which I was already in. So it was really good for me to go back into my past to see how abundance played a role, or the lack of abundance. And because I had been doing the work all along, it just aligned with abundance. A lot of what I will be talking about in terms of abundance consists of a lot of different dimensions or factors, and it's all with these pieces or these parts that come together, right? It's part of alignment as well. So I'll be talking about some sort of offshoots, and I'll give you some tips as I go through my story. So I started work when I was 12 years old. I started waitressing, and then it was just working through my teens while still figuring out my stuff. And then I got into a private college where I took an accounting course. So I was in accounting for a while. And then in my 20s, it was there was one moment that I remember that I had made a shift. It was probably in my mid-20s. All of a sudden I was catching myself or observing and realizing that, why am I always worried about paying rent? We're starting off with little things, right? These little observations. So nearing the end of the month, I was worrying about, oh, am I gonna make rent? Which I think some of you, or even a lot of you, go through, especially when we're younger. And because my foundation of work and learning and knowledge through my journey has been very based on energy, how I use my energy, negative and positive energy. So when I noticed that I was doing this, I was like, okay, I'm worrying every single month about paying rent. And then I said to myself, is this really something that I should be worried about? Because obviously when you're in a worry state, it is a lower energy or a lower vibration, right? It's just like, oh no, where am I going to get the money for rent? Am I going to find money? And when we're talking about rent, it really is your sense of security. It's the roof over your head. It is one of the main things in life that helps us feel secure and stable. So how I got out of that and started shifting that was, I looked back in my past life and I had asked myself, how many times did I miss paying rent? And you know what my answer was? 0. And I was like, okay, so I've always paid rent, then why am I stressing out about this and getting anxious about this? And then I started thinking to myself, how many times in this span of years have I spent worrying about rent? That was a lot. It was 12 times a year. At least 12 times a year. Now that doesn't count and factor in the amount of times I spent worrying and being anxious about it or having anxiety about it. So boom, that realization for me was, okay, what a wasted time that I had wasted on thinking about something that wasn't even a reality. So I made that shift right away. So I stopped worrying about paying rent. Now, like I said, these little things do matter in terms of raising frequency and shifting energy. And then basically I stopped worrying about rent. And then what was the next thing for me? Again, I didn't really focus on the abundance. The way I lived my life was that I had started working when I was young, and I didn't have anyone to rely on financially. So I was the only person that I could rely on. So it was a matter of, if I want something, I'd have to work for it. So I spent my time just working, but also setting goals, right? Setting goals of what I wanted. So it was, I wanted a house, I wanted a business. And those were my main 2 points, which I did achieve both throughout my life. I opened up my business when I was about 32. I started working on my business when I was 31. So again, even by this point, I wasn't in the mentality of abundance. So fast forward, I'd closed my business down, I had moved, major transition for me in my life, and I knew something was coming. I didn't exactly know what was coming. I just knew that I was evolving into a newer self on very many different levels. It's almost like my evolution, which is upgrading, right? I was upgrading. And for some reason, I just didn't feel like living in Canada was gonna work for where I knew I needed to be. So I decided to move to Mexico, where the vibration is higher. So it took me 3 years for the process of getting everything wound down for me to come here. And I did some traveling, a lot of traveling for about a year and a half. And then it was time for me to settle. So I got my apartment, and then it was, okay, now I gotta focus. You know, I had my time of winding down from my life. It was my business, my relationship, and my house that completely shifted. And so now it was just me in a new country, sort of starting new, but it wasn't starting new really. It was just on to the next level, on to the next stage in my life. And it wasn't either like a midlife crisis. I wasn't in crisis mode. I was in happy joy mode. So happy joy mode. I got the apartment, signed a 1-year lease. I just needed to settle. I was really sick and tired of traveling in a suitcase. And then in January, I was like, okay, I need to settle down. I need to start thinking about what my next project is in terms of work. Not working for somebody, but starting another work project for me. I didn't know what I wanted to get into, what type of business, all of that kind of stuff. I had no idea. So that's why I needed to take the time to do that exploration. So while I was doing that exploration, I was getting messages that, Lahna, whatever you plan for work and your next projects, don't plan anything. And I was like, what? How can I not plan anything? And basically what Spirit said to me, that no matter what I planned, it was all going to go to waste. And I was like, okay, when Spirit speaks and talks, I listen. And I did. Spirit was also telling me that I was going to come into a lot of money in a very short period of time. So I'm going to rewind just a little bit. Before Spirit started sending me these messages, I had determined and come to the realization and made an oath that my life was going to be of service. I kind of knew what my life purpose was and my life mission was, because I've been doing it a lot of my life, which is helping people. But I didn't think that was it. It was just innately in me. So now I was starting to realize that no, this is your work. This is your life purpose, and your mission is to help people on earth, raising their frequencies and their vibrations. And I said, okay, I took the time to write about it, journal about it, and because it meant a full commitment, right? What Spirit was asking of me was, don't plan anything, don't do anything, don't worry about money, we got you. And I had no proof. I didn't have anything, a contract in writing from Spirit. So I just not blindly believed, because I don't blindly do anything. I had to make a decision. I had to commit to say yes. And I said yes. And that was one of the most important decisions that I made. So in me making that decision, what is happening energetically and spiritually is that I was honoring myself, coming to the realization that there's magic in this world. Things work not the way a human mind thinks of it in terms of logically. There's a lot of stuff in the universe and our world that cannot be puzzled together and formed into a logical sense, in a human logical sense. And that's sort of what I was sort of playing around. Because I've been really connected to Spirit at such a young age, also learning about the world and the earth and the illusions of sort of our minds and natural tendency of the human brain and life experiences and how those can affect us over time. So I kind of walked that borderline of spirit and living on earth, which I wouldn't have traded that for anything. Because when you learn the laws of the universe and then you also learn some of the rules of the earth, you're able to kind of bend the spoon or break certain rules or break out of limiting beliefs, right? The human construct earth kind of thing. So I said, okay, yes, I'm here. I'm committed. I wrote things on paper. Spirit was telling me to do certain things to further honor, to further progress my manifestation. And this is where the part where I focused for the first time in my life to manifest something consciously. So before, with my business and the car and relationship, yes, I did manifest those intuitively. I didn't know or focus on the manifestation part. It was more of, this is what I want to do and I'm going to do it, which is part of manifestation. But this time in January, this time was very different. It was, okay, I'm trying to manifest something that I have never manifested before and tried to focus on before. And it was the wealth part. Like I said, abundance was already built in me. So that was an easier part for me to get through. But for some of you, that's sort of where I'm going to talk more about abundance. And I can only talk about it from my state of when I was consciously aware of it, more aware of it this January. What does abundance mean to you? Abundance for me is meant that my glass is always full. I guess I would call it, I never feel at a loss. Like, I have abundance of everything. Everything that I have is more than enough. If at one point I don't feel I have enough, that the universe will provide. And I've never felt like I didn't have enough of anything. So gratitude is coming up right now, to be grateful for what you have. I mean, if I really strip it down, because of what I had gone through when I was younger, the person who I transformed into was a person who loves life, a person who I'm so grateful for everything that I have. Even if at certain times in my life I didn't have as much money, it didn't matter to me, because of my traumas, the only thing that I really wanted more of in my life was love. And that was it. The money, I didn't care about money really. And I had dated somebody. He didn't have a whole lot of wealth when we first started dating. And then I think it was maybe third or fourth year, he just exploded. So I did experience wealth and abundance when I was 22, 23. But even at that, it wasn't something that was important to me. So that is a lesson in terms of, look back at your life and in how many ways did you feel like you didn't have an abundance, or you felt like you lacked something, or you were worried and anxious about something. For me, having that wealth, even though it wasn't mine, experience of wealth, it was there, but I didn't value it, and it came out in my physical world, because all of my designer bags, I didn't really care for them. I just chucked them everywhere. I had lost 2 very expensive watches that were gifted to me, and hence later on I had thought to myself exactly what I just said earlier. I didn't value these materialistic things. And I saw money as an energy exchange for housing, food, to live, basically. And that's all I had in terms of my perception about money. I was more driven, goal-oriented, driven, and I've always been that way, and even still today I am. I don't focus on money, except this year. But that was for a purpose. Going back to that. So in January, I fully aligned and committed with my life purpose, which is to help people. And then I had these thoughts of, okay, well, if I want to help as many people in the world as I can. And then it came down to, okay, I need more, I need energy, money. Not that I need it. I could help people in many other ways, but I want to help people in as many ways as possible. And especially with money, I mean, the food banks really could need the help right now. There's orphanages, there's really poor villages and towns in a lot of different countries that I would love to visit and help them develop, like a water system, the school for the little kids. So that was what I wanted to do and experience, and how I wanted to experience my life purpose and my mission. And that involves money. So when I came to that part of the realization, Spirit came in and said to me, Lahna, don't worry about money. And I was like, okay, then what do you want me to do? Spirit just says, nothing, Lahna, you just sit there. But we want you to start shifting the value you have about money. Because remember I said I didn't care about money? I also didn't focus on money, so I was really just neutral stance with money. So they wanted me to shift my perspective into a higher vibration, because my intention for the energy, for the money, was coming from a higher place, from the heart, from love. So that's how they told me to shift my perspectives. I realized that was something I needed to do. So I did do that. And this is how I look at it. And then how I shifted it. So basically, money, the basic foundation of what money is, it's just energy, right? It's the value of what we hold of an item. And with that item, we can exchange the money energy with somebody else, and we can trade, and that's what it is, an exchange of energy. And that's what money is. A lot of things in life is exactly the same, an exchange of energy. And you can also shift energy and all that kind of stuff. I talked about that in the last video. So if we think that money is an exchange in energy, I thought to myself, okay, so knowing that this abundance of wealth is coming in, how can I attract it to myself? And how can I get it to come faster to me or be magnetized to me?